this the first time I'm seeing you? First time we've been together without masks or something?
Feels great.
That's who you are sitting out there. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. It's been a busy time. We're so proud of our president as he represents our country and our values in these days over there with NATO, EU, the G7, NATO, EU, and now vis-a-vis Putin. I'm just very proud of him, and so we're all sort of in the aftermath of his visit. But our work here has continued, as does his, for our country, even when he's away. Let me just quote a couple of headlines. UN warns that runaway inequality is destabilizing to the world's democracies. Beyond pandemic upheaval, a racial wealth divide endures. Powell, that would be the chairman of the Fed, Powell defends Federal Reserve's attention to inequality. Post-pandemic economy will boom, but not for all. That is really what brings us together. For us to come together to build an economy where the prosperity is shared by all Americans. In December 30th, I put out a statement announcing that our rules package would contain provisions for a select committee, and that is what we did. However, I am now announcing the members of that select committee because, as you know, we had unforeseen events following December 7th that have, December 30th that have taken up our time. The Select Committee is called the Select Committee on Economic Disparity and Fairness and Growth. It is predicated on something said by Franklin Roosevelt when he established something he called the Temporary National Committee, the Temporary National Economic Committee. And this is what he said at the time. The liberty of a democracy is not safe if the people tolerate the growth of the private power to a point where it becomes stronger than their democracy, the democratic state itself. The liberty of a democracy is not safe if the business system does not provide employment and produce and distribute goods in a way as to sustain acceptable standard of living. He went on to say in a message to Congress, he made this announcement in an address to Congress. He said, "We believe in a way of living in which political democracy and free private enterprise for profit should serve and protect each other to ensure a maximum of human liberty, not for the few, but for all." So in that spirit, we have established this select committee. I'm very proud of those who have accepted the invitation to join the committee, and I will be acknowledging them in a moment. It's very clear the widening chasm between CEO compensation and worker pay has gone from unfair to immoral. The stagnation of worker pay, an historic picture of injustice. Maybe about 40 years ago, if you saw our economy, you would see if productivity rose, worker pay rose, CEO pay rose. Within the past 40, more like 35 years, it started to be productivity rises, wages stagnate, CEO pay increases. I call it a right angle going in the wrong direction, to the point where some CEOs make in a few weeks what their entry-level employees make in a lifetime. So the question is, let us define the challenge and hear from those most affected by it, most in need, most concerned about the diminishing of the luster of the American dream, because that has a very demoralizing effect on our country. everybody has to think that they and their families will have a better future than their parents. And when that is dulled, again, not good for a country. I have more to say on this, but I want you to hear from our distinguished chair, who has agreed to take on this responsibility. I'll use his words to describe him, and that is that Jim Himes, he's a member of the Financial Services Committee. I'm sure you probably know that. But he wants to bring extensive professional experience from the private sector, where he was before, and in affordable housing, which is very important into reducing the actual racial divide in equity in our country. I am pleased that he has, for a time now, one of the motivations for putting this together was that people were coming with suggestions, whether it was about housing, whether it was about a sovereign fund in order to use the profits to help the neediest in our country, a 50-year bond with low interest rate. Everybody had different suggestions how housing could impact fairness and equity. And I would always just refer to Mr. Himes and say, could you take these meetings? Can you see how they could be incorporated into our regular order with our committees? But it just became so much that we decided to have a select committee on that. This select committee will work with the committees of jurisdiction, the standing committees of jurisdiction. I couldn't be prouder than by the team that we have assembled here.